Good day, ladies and gentlemen and friends. Carrying on the foreign policy front, as I take it to the most consequential relationship for 2022, that weather turbulence, all kinds of turbulence, including the Ukraine war, imports of oil, and navigated the stormy waters and stayed on course and grew actually, is India's relationship with the United States. So when you put it in context, right, you say to yourself, which are the countries that are contributing really positively for the Indian economy? And you find yourself, it has to be the West, and the leader of them is United States. Whether it is in terms of our folks who are NRIs in the United States, leading these big organizations who are actually setting up back-end offices in India, whether it's Microsoft or Surinder Pichai of Google, or Adobe, everybody, Accenture, everybody has some huge back office plays in India. Or it is the case of other supply chains. It continues to be the United States which runs a positive trade deficit with India, right? So we've got a surplus with them, and that's what's more important when you compare the United States with China. China wants to say we are the biggest partner, trading partner of India. What difference does it make? 90% of that trade is their export to India, hence we run the largest deficit. In a sense, we are funding their army, right? Almost to the tune of 60-70 billion. Go figure that, right? Plus they're hacking our systems, and they're playing havoc into, like AIMS was hacked by them, right? So the biggest consequential relationship which held its course and is consequential going forward. Remember, the biggest spin-off effects are going to be if you become part of the global supply chain of defense equipment, right? And the biggest global supplier is the United States. It's not France by any chance. We keep running after France or whatever delusional safety we find in the fact that they've been with us in our corner all the time. But remember, even French systems have US components. So if the US was to sanction us, French systems would come to us. Courtesy, just remember what happened to the French nuclear plants, right? They're all interconnected. So person to go for is the United States. But like I said, Sweden eyes FTA push with India during EU presidency. Everybody wants an FTA. Here's what I say: will back friend Modi in efforts on G20, says Biden. Rajnath discusses India's US defense ties with Austin. Like I said, the most important. And then Seema Sirohi writes, what's Chef Biden cooking for India? It says, but what's cooking for India? Biden's Deputy National Security Advisor Jonathan Finner called 2022 a huge year in India-US relationships and promised that 23 will be even bigger with several high-level engagements. India's G20 presidency is live on the radar, and US officials will make efforts to highlight, participate in and promote events planned by New Delhi. But see, the person who's going to cause problems for us is going to be China, right? Businesser than usual. Again, Seema Sirohi, she writes, it was a challenging year of war and worse, but summits and high-level visits continued in both directions. Robust engagements is now routine, and acute differences are well managed. Notable meetings include the 4th Quad Summit in Tokyo, the first I2U2 meeting of India, Israel, UAE and the US as a symbol of a new geopolitical development in West Asia, 4th International of the 2+2 India-US dialogue, the first visit by an Indian naval ship to the continental US, and the launch of a new India-US initiative on critical and emerging technologies to forge outcome-oriented projects, just to name a few. Consequential, right? Biden looks to Modi to help move global agenda forward, US Deputy NSA. Then this is what you should all take to heart and remember and understand where and how we can make this play. We'll become part of a new boom for arms makers as US military spending increases. Combination of war in Ukraine and concern about long-term threats from Russia, China driving bipartisan push to up US capacity to produce weapons. He says military spending next year is on track to reach the highest level in inflation-adjusted terms since the peaks in the costs of the Iraq and Afghanistan war between 2008 and 2011, and the second highest in inflation-adjusted terms since World War II. And this, folks, is what we need to become a part of. And this, Japan, UK, Italy to jointly build jet. This is what we need. Not go after the Rafale and France. And this is Quicker on the draw, please. Just understand the statement made by Seema Sirohi. Yes, the request is outside the box, but so is India's offer to build ships and lease them to the United States Navy to help with the shortfall. Hallelujah. Just imagine if that happens. If the United States was to come and up the game of Indian shipyards because the Indian shipyards were not delivering ships to the United States Navy. What a change in events and what a message to the world. Need 5 to 6 squadrons of 4.5 generation jets, says IF chief. And then when you get this, if somebody is playing hooky, and especially the French. Marine Rafale scores over American Super Hornet in Navy deal dogfight. India will sign government to government 26 jet dealer for aircraft carriers. So here, folks, is the span. India cannot afford to give this to Rafale. Hornet is a far better plane than Rafale. I can guarantee you that. Doval pushes France on defense R&D. India, France discuss defense co-production military exercise. Now let me just tell you about defense items coming from France. You cannot become part of a supply chain. If they even transfer technology, what good is that, right? At the end of the day, your ecosystem is only going to grow when you are part of a large defense ecosystem, and that only is the United States. And France and Europe combined are pygmies in comparison to that. Indian company bags 155.5 million export order for artillery guns, and like I said, we are there. Kalyani can become a part of the supply chain of BAE and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, the spend, the demand is what drives development. Demand is what drives growth. Demand is what drives technology. And that's only happening with a budget being put forward by the United States and Europe to a certain extent, but United States for sure. That's where, folks, we need to focus and look at the size of the defense budget that's been announced by the United States, folks. Cheers and Jai Hind.